Hello everyone, we are watching top 6 fastest checkmate with King's Gambit traps. Number 1, e4, e5, f4, the King's Gambit. Pawn takes f4, King's Gambit accepted. Knight f3, pawn to g5, knight c3, pawn to g4, knight e5, queen h4 check, pawn to g3, pawn takes g3, queen takes g4, pawn to g2 for discovered check, queen takes queen h4, pawn takes rook h1 and promote a new queen, queen h5, bishop e7, knight takes f7, knight f6, knight d6, double check, king d8, brilliant queen sacrifice e8, knight takes e8, knight f7 check and mate. Number 2, e4, e5, f4, the king's gambit. Pawn takes f4, king's gambit accepted. Knight f3, pawn to g5, bishop c4, pawn to g4, white castle. Pawn takes knight f3, knight c3, pawn takes g2, brilliant bishop sacrifice f7, king takes bishop f7, rook takes f4 check, knight f6, pawn to e5, bishop e7, queen h5 check, king f8, pawn takes knight f6, bishop d6, queen h6 check, king e8, pawn to f7 check, king e7, knight d5 check and mate. Number 3, e4, e5, f4, the king's gambit. Pawn to d6, king's gambit decline, knight f3, knight f6, bishop c4, knight c6, knight c3, bishop g4, white castle, bishop e7, pawn to d3, knight h5, brilliant bishop sacrifice f7, king takes f7, knight g5 check, bishop takes knight g5, pawn takes bishop g5 with discovered check, king e6, queen takes g4 with check, king e7, Knight d5 check. King e8. Queen e6 check. Knight e7. Rook f7. Knight f4. Rook takes knight e7 and check. Queen takes e7. Queen takes queen e7 and check and mate. Number 4. e4. e5. f4. The king's gambit. Knight c6. King's gambit decline. Knight f3. Pawn to d6. Bishop c4. Knight f6. Pawn to d3. Bishop g4. White castle. Bishop e7. Knight c3. Knight d4. Pawn takes pawn e5. Pawn takes e5. Bishop takes f7 and brilliant move. King takes bishop f7. Knight takes e5 with check. King g8. Knight takes bishop g4. Knight takes knight g4. Queen takes knight g4. Knight c2. Queen e6 check and mate. Number 5. e4. e5. f4. The king's gambit. d6. King's gambit decline. Knight f3. Knight c6. Bishop c4. Knight f6. Knight c3. Bishop g4. Pawn to d3. Bishop e7. White castle. Knight h5. Pawn takes pawn to e5. Knight takes pawn to e5. Knight takes knight e5. Queen hanging. Black bishop takes queen d1. Bishop takes f7 with check. King f8. Bishop takes knight g5 and discovered check. Bishop f6. Rook takes bishop f6 with brilliant move. Pawn takes rook f6. Bishop h6 check. King e7. Knight d5 check. King e6. Bishop f7 check. King takes knight e5. Pawn to c3. Bishop g4. Bishop f4 check and mate. Number 6. e4. e5. f4. The king's gambit. Pawn takes f4. King's gambit accepted. Knight f3. Pawn to g5. bishop c4, pawn to g4, white castle, pawn takes knight f3, queen takes pawn to f3, bishop h6, pawn to d4, knight c6, knight c3, knight takes pawn to d4, brilliant bishop sacrifice f7, king takes bishop f7, queen h5 check, king g7, bishop takes f4, bishop takes bishop f4, rook takes bishop f4, knight f6, queen g5 check, king f7, rook f1, rook doubling, queen e7, rook takes knight f6 check, king e8, knight d5, queen takes e4, brilliant rook sacrifice, queen takes rook e6, knight c7 check and mate. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share and follow.